Welcome back to Zombie Recaps. Today, we will talk about horror movie from 1989 titled Pet Sematary. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The Creeds are on their way from Chicago to Maine to relocate the family. They are Dr. Lewis, Rachel, two children, Ellie, Gage, and their cat Church. Ellie is delighted and begins playing with the swing in the yard as the parents inspect the property, which they just adore. Just then, the rope snaps and Ellie falls. At the same time, Louie and Rachel take care of Ellie. A red truck speeds by and the infant wipes. Hello. Luckily, Gage is saved by a kind older man named Judd, who warns the family that these trucks can hit quicker than they can scream while getting to know each other. Rachel asks Judd where the path leads to in front of their house. Judd replies he'll take the family to visit once they all settle in. While Lewis wanders around the new house at night, he questions the mysterious path. Judd calls him over for a beer. The two talks about how awful the road is and revealed the walkway leading to the pet cemetery. Mostly, dogs and cats that get hit on the road will end up being buried there. The following morning, Judd keeps the promise to take the Crease to the path where they visit the pet cemetery. Rachel thinks it is unfortunate seeing children upset about their dead pets. Judd explains that the road is horrible, making the children brokenhearted when they lose their pet friends. They sometimes have to learn about death, so the pet cemetery's idea is actually humane. That night, Ellie asks her father, what if her pet Church dies? Louie tries to console her by telling her that the cat still has a long life ahead of it. The next day, Lewis arrives at work for the first day at the University of Maine. An injured youngster who others are claiming was hit by a truck. They hurry him into the emergency room covered in blood and summon Dr. Lewis. As Lewis sits next to him, the youngster appears to be dead. Suddenly, the boy opens his eyes and aggressively clutches Dr. Creed, peering into his eyes and whispering his name, saying that he'll come for Lewis. The doctor becomes astonished as the patient figured out his name. That night as Lewis is sleeping, he is startled awake by the young man from earlier in the day who appears in the bedroom doorway. Still bloody from head to toe, the two start strolling down the pet cemetery route together, with the boy leading the way. He says this is where the dead speaks, but don't go any further, because this is where the dead walk. Dr. Lewis claims that he wants to wake up before laying down on the ground. Just then, Lewis opens his eyes in bed, but as he pulls back the covers, he notices that his feet are covered in mud, and that grass has clung to his feet. It's Thanksgiving Day, and Rachel will be spending the day with her father's family, who we learn dislike Lewis so that he will be home alone. Lewis gets a call from his neighbor, Judd, who says that there's a dead cat on the edge of his lawn. Lewis discovers that it is Church as he makes his way across the busy street. Now he is concerned that Ellie will suffer as Church is her best pet. Lewis says he'll bury him the following day, and that he might lie to Ellie saying he hasn't seen the cat. Judd says that there is a better way and guides Lewis into Pet Cemetery. On with the shovel. According to Judd, Lewis must follow Judd's footsteps since he knows the route over a massive wooden barricade. The two reach a burial place after a long walk. Judd remarks on the shallow dirt and hands the shovel to Lewis, telling him he must do it alone. Lewis finishes excavating and finally places the cat in the hole. Just after dark, returning home, Judd tells Lewis not to tell anyone about what they did tonight. The following morning, Lewis finds Church is not dead and has come back while examining the returned dead cat. Church scratches Lewis in the face. Lewis mentions the cat with Judd just a bit later. Judd also describes how he learned about the burial area from an Indian after losing his pet dog in 1925. His dog also reappeared after he buried him, but he was a different dog. Judd claims that he has decided to revive Church primarily for Ellie, because she is too little to understand. Louie inquires about persons being buried in the cemetery, to which Judd responds that no one would ever do so. During this time, Church continues to act strange and dark, making Lewis worried and scared. When the family returns home, Ellie inquires about Church. She tells Louie that she had a dream about Church being dead and that Dad and Judd buried him. Lewis comforts Ellie, saying Church is totally fine. At night, Louie and Rachel start talking about Rachel, sister, who suffered from a severe illness years ago. Rachel was forced to feed the sister by herself alone when she was only 8 years old. The family wanted the sister to die because she had begun to resemble a monster and was never satisfied with Rachel's care. Finally, she died, which relieved the family, including Rachel. Louie tried to console Rachel, telling her that it was her parents' fault, and Rachel was too young at the time. Sometime later, Gage enjoys the picnic time with Judd and his family. He chases a kite as it continues to move forward until it reaches the roadway. Meanwhile, a massive red truck rushing down a hill as Gage approaches the road. The entire family chases after him, but in the center of the road, Gage is run over. The entire family is grief-stricken when Louis starts drinking and conversing with Judd. The topic of the burial ground comes up. People have been buried there, according to Judd. Timmy Bateman was a young man and died near the conclusion of World War II. Timmy's father, Bill, placed his son's corpse into the Micmac burial ground, only to have it reanimated. However, when Timmy returned after 4 or 5 days, his mother declared him an abomination who needed to be dealt with. So Judd and other men went to the house and set fire while Timmy was still inside. Judd resents himself for introducing Louis to the sour grounds, admitting sometimes it's preferable to be dead. The person being put up there isn't the same anymore. Whatever exists outside a pet cemetery isn't human. However, Louis seems firm with his intention. After the funeral, Rachel's family takes Ellie and Rachel to Chicago to make them feel better, leaving Louis alone yet again. Later, Louis arrives in the cemetery with a tool bag sitting next to Gage's grave, where he encounters the bloody past scout, who cries and tells him not to contemplate his dark deeds. Elsewhere in Chicago, Pa continues to haunt Ellie and Rachel in their dreams, attempting to stop Louis. However, Louis begins digging Gage's grave late that night. Rachel runs home from Chicago, accompanied by Pascal, attempting to warn her about what Louis is planning. At the same time, Louis begins his journey up to the burial ground while carrying Gage. Louis arrives at the cemetery late at night just as Rachel is speeding home in a rented car, though she crashes into some trees on a dark road. As Louis finishes burying Gage, he returns home, exhausted. Gage's new burial spot begins to move, and a small hand is seen lifting rocks from atop his tomb. During the night, the door shoved open, revealing Gage's tiny legs. Gage is grunting and cooing around the house. He comes across his father's medicine kit and opens it to reveal a gleaming silver scalpel. Judd wakes up on his porch, noticing something is going on at Louis's house. He hurries over to investigate. He can hear Gage laughing as he enters the house, so he looks around and finds the boy. Gage's hand appears from under a table clutching the scalpel, pierces through John's Achilles heel and straight through his lips. The evil boy takes a big bite out of Judd's neck as Church looks on. When Rachel returns from her journey, she notices Church outdoors, licking his injured paw. She shouts out for Judd as she walks into the house, but she hears a voice calling her name. Her sister's ghost greets her as she enters an upstairs room. She then takes Rachel to Judd's house, where she finds Gage in an upstairs bedroom. Gage says he brought her something and shows her Louis's scalpel. Rachel hugs her son in disbelief, and her fate is unsure. Louis wakes up the following day and stumbles out of bed. He sees numerous small money footprints leaving the room and the absence of his scalpel. Preparing shots of morphine, Louis heads to Judd's house, running into Church once more. He distracts the cat with a raw steak, then kills him with a shot of morphine. As Gage laughs in the background, he uncovers Judd's body. He makes his way down the hall, where Rachel's corpse emerges from the attic with a rope around her neck. Gage then jumps down on top of Louis and cuts him a few times, using the scalpel on the face and on the body. At this point, Louis injects the boy with a morphine shot, making him ultimately slip down and die in the corridor. Then Louis pours gasoline all over the house and sets it on fire. Louis flees the scene with Rachel's body in his arms, bringing her to the burial site where he buried Church. After he buries Rachel, he returns home and waits for his wife to come back. Just then, Rachel does return, and they start kissing each other passionately. Meanwhile, Rachel lunges for a kitchen knife on the table, followed by a scream from Louis. That is all for this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, give it thumbs up and subscribe to Zombie Recaps. Turn on notifications so you can get notified by YouTube when we upload a new video. Thanks for watching.